Hi, everyone. Finally, nice to meet everyone. My name is George Cox, and today I'm going to talk to you about my research project focusing on James W.C. Pennington and the Union Missionary Society. Now, for those who may not know, the Union Missionary Society was considered the first Black evangelical abolitionist society, and James W.C. Pennington was the founder and creator of the society. And so what my research project focuses on not only the story of James W.C. Pennington and the creation of the UMS, but also any challenges and issues faced by the UMS within Black abolitionism and abolitionism in general. I hope everyone enjoys. So during the course of my research, my goal was to get a better understanding of the evangelical nature of Pennington and the evangelical nature of the UMS itself as I continued to venture on, and how that affected their relations and their business among the evangelical abolitionist society. To get a better understanding of Pennington, I was able to get his written autobiography, which was online. It's called The Fugitive Blacksmith, or the Events of History of James W.C. Pennington. And that was key in understanding how, from an early age, his thought was he wanted freedom, and how the influence of, once he escaped from enslavement, the influence of evangelicals that he met along his underground railroad path of freedom influenced him to become a Congregationalist minister. Also, to help me with this journey was the archives of the Union Missionary Society. The Union Missionary Society had an internal house organ newspaper called the Union Missionary Herald and the Union Missionary. Now, these were key articles for me to determine the history of the organization from the inside, from Josiah Brewer, who was the editor of the newspaper during this time, and also Lewis Tappan, who toward the end of the missionaries UMS's history also served as editor. Now, to get a better understanding of the overall abolitionist world, and specifically the evangelical abolitionist world, I use primarily secondary sources. A key one for this source was Manisha Sinha's The Slave's Cause, which takes not only a United States but also a global internationalist viewpoint of the abolitionist world during this time period. Probably the most important secondary source that I was able to discover was Bertram Wyatt Brown's masterful biography of Lewis Tappan. Now, those of you may know, Lewis Tappan was an evangelical. Him and his brother, Lewis and Arthur Tappan, were evangelical brothers and highly successful businessmen from the New York area. And they were able to provide much of the financing for especially the early to middle part of the abolitionist world. They were also partners and I would say definitely friends and associates of Pennington during his journey into evangelical abolitionism. And even though they were not necessarily initial members of the UMS, they had issues, challenges, and concerns about establishing the UMS. They eventually played a key role in not only helping to obtain some funding for the UMS, but eventually the dissolving of the UMS into the American Missionary Association. So at the end of my research, what did I find? First, there were definitely cases of paternalism displayed between the white abolitionists toward Black abolitionists, specifically with Pennington and the UMS. That wasn't so much of a surprise because it was in the mid-19th century, and time and again, my research within the secondary and primary research articles were able to discover that while white abolitionists strongly fought for the abolition of slavery, a lot of this is because of their evangelical thought that man, white or black man, was made in the image of God and had natural rights. However, did that not necessarily mean that they believed in equal rights, cultural and societal equal rights between blacks and whites? That was a constant theme that black abolitionists, specifically when I look at the secondary writings of some historian Benjamin Quarles in his Black Abolitionist book, discovered and reemphasized time and again that black abolitionists and white abolitionists were constantly fighting concerning the thought that black abolitionists did not think that white abolitionists were as concerned about societal and civil rights for African Americans. Second, I would have to say that the overall view that I saw, specifically when looking at the financial records that were online that Tappan had concerning his time as treasurer of the UMS, was that the UMS, time and time again during this short period of time of existence, struggled financially. There were many articles and many letters back and forth between Tappan and Pennington, for instance, where Tappan was constantly asking, where is this funding coming from? Where are these donations? Where are we at with this? Where are we at with that? There are plenty of articles and that my apologies. There are plenty of instances where Pennington, within his autobiography, discussed the fact that there was lack of funding that always hindered the UMS. So in the end, the UMS was forced to, I would say, consolidate and consolidate with other evangelical societies to form the American Missionary Association, specifically because they failed to secure adequate funding.